Hey Book2, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for a book update. So I did, of course, recently purchase some books, and but because I don't have a lot here because um I'm just including this in an update video because I also don't have a lot to update anyway. Every time I watch people's videos that bring up the whole the consumerism and people hauling a bunch of books, I always feel like even though people are not talking to me, I'm just watching a video, so they don't know I exist. I'm still because I know I buy books a lot, I get this feeling of annoyance and a little defensive because part of me does feel guilty. But then I also remind myself most of the time I buy books off of thriftbooks.com. I mean, now I have a Kindle, so but even though I have a Kindle, I don't, I read my books first. And plus because the account isn't even mine, it's my mom's account. So I have to go through her enough to be like let her know that okay, I'm gonna. So I don't buy books. The only time I buy books off of Amazon is if I'm buying if I want to buy another like Terry or one of my family members a book. Which I mean, I don't buy my family members books often because I tried to get my mom to read books, but the book I got her last Christmas, she opened it and read a little bit of it, but hasn't. In fact, I'm tempted to just borrow the book from her. Terry's really the only person I buy, and I mean now my dad's more willing to just get him back into reading himself. Um, so I bought books for him in the last 2 years for Christmas, but Terry's really the only one, and and I personally don't buy it, but when I get books from Amazon, it's because other people bought it for me. While with Kindle, I don't do it that often because, I'm like, okay, let me read some of these books first off of my Kindle before I buy any more. And then most of the time, and I only get one book from Books A Million, the Books A Million the chain bookstore. And then I also go to the independent bookstore. So it is an independent bookstore. It's not a chain bookstore. I mean, Books A Million is a chain bookstore, but the other bookstore that's, is an independent one. And then the rest of the time I use the book shopping. And I don't buy like 10 to 30 books. So, but yeah, I still feel guilty about it and defensive. But then, like I said, I remind myself that I don't see myself as bad as as the people that they are talking about. Of course, I haven't watched those people, and I'm not, personally, I don't care what those people do. I'm just saying that that's what they bring up. These people who talk consumerism and criticize consumerism. Which, but yeah, I was watching one of those videos where this booktuber or YouTuber, I don't know if he's officially, because there's some people talk about books that I don't, like Daniel Green, for instance, who doesn't consider himself a booktuber anymore. But he was reacting to bookish opinions. And, of course, consumerism got brought up because I feel like that's an opinion a lot of people have strong feelings on, and it's constantly brought up when people discuss people's controversial opinions. But anyway, so let me first update you on what's going on with my reading. So I'm trying to focus on reading just this one book. Well, actually, I am reading a book on my Kindle, of course. I'm reading the Exile, Ryan Cahill's one of his in-between books, one of his in-between novellas in his Bound in the Broken series. And he recommended reading that one first before you read book 2, I think. I mean, I hope I wasn't supposed to read it before book 3, I should say. Before book 3. That's the next novel I gotta go to. So after I read book 2, I already read book 2, so I'm currently reading this novella. And So I think I can read it. I think it was recommended to read it before book 3. I mean, it's too late now. Where it kind of explains this other character, the character that I think is introduced in the book 2, and his story, and how the consequences to his people and their village and everything, and it's discussed. It's all about or his kind of origin story of how this young man ended up where he is in book 2, and his history and his complicated relationship with siblings, and what happened to their parents, and how why he hasn't seen his siblings in a long time, why he never contacted them. This story kind of explains that whole history, which I guess that's why. Although now I wonder if I should have read it before I started book 2, read it after book 1. But I read the other novella. Well, oh wait, no, I didn't read the other novella first, The Fall. And I definitely like Exile better, because I think, like, The Fall felt too short to me almost. The Fall felt like it explained away how this empire took over and got rid of the other people in power, thinking that seeing them as the bad guys, and thinking that they have too much power. And so The Fall, what happened, this Mortain guy takes over, but Ryan Cahill, what he wrote felt so short, a little too short for even a novella, as like a prequel novella. Like, it felt, even though it took me a while to read it. I mean, the only reason it took me a while to read it actually was because we were in London at the time, so there were times when I didn't feel like reading. And so I didn't get a lot of reading done on that trip, which, I mean, I'm in London, so of course I'm not going to get a lot of reading done. And there were times when I could have read, but I was tired from all the tourist stuff we were doing, and I was ready to, I mean, and even when we first got there, I was exhausted, and because I cannot sleep on planes. I also cannot read on planes either, because I will get sick, and I think it's an altitude thing. And then, so I spent the whole time, even though my ears felt so sore, but the little earbuds they give you, because they don't have the little cushion on them, I still, and it was one of these, like, and on top of that, I felt like my jaw felt sore, and every time I opened my mouth to yawn or something, it hurt, like right here. So, even though that was going on, I still, like, was watching movies on the plane. Like, that's the first time I saw the movie If, Imaginary Friend. Like, I watched it twice on the way there and on the way back, because I absolutely love that movie. That movie made me cry. I may be disappointed in Ryan Reynolds right now, and I don't like his wife Blake, but I still love some of his movies. But anyway, and then I watched, and then I did how sometimes on planes they have those little trivia games that are free? Well, I did that as well, and it's just, so it would be hard for me to read on the plane. I mean, I could, and which is kind of frustrating, because I, like, reading while traveling, especially since I'm always the passenger, I am unable to drive because of my disabilities, so I don't have to worry about that. And, of course, the one thing I do have to worry about is I don't get to control what's on the radio when I'm in the car. And, so yeah, long story short, I didn't get a lot of reading done when we went to our London trip, and it took me a long time to read that novella, but it still felt too short, even despite, the fact that, and it felt more like it could have been a prologue or something, just a long prologue. But this one I'm liking better, because it feels like there is more of a plot in this one. In Exile. So I am reading that right now. And I'm reading that slowly, because last night I ended up watching Beyond the Trailer, one of the channels I watch that she reviews movies and stuff and adaptations. I was watching her, I was kind of catching up on her videos on Welcome to Derry, her thoughts on the episodes, and I had to watch 6 of her videos because there were 6 episodes have gone on so far, and I ended up staying up until midnight watching her videos. So I ended up not reading in bed like I usually do. But I did start, but throughout the day yesterday, I continued reading The Plantagenets by Dan Jones, subtitle The Warrior Kings and Queens Who Made England. So this was the dynasty that came before the Tudors. But it's so fascinating learning about this. And the book talks about, Prince John. If you're, as far as if you are familiar with Robin Hood, that's the antagonist in the Robin Hood legend. And now they actually talk about, in one of these sections of this book, they talk about him and how he was king and everything, how Richard died during one of his crusades when he was in the Middle East. I think he had died, and King John took over, and he was really as bad as they there's a reason he's an antagonist in the Robin Hood legend. He taxed a lot. Of course, in his defense for the taxing, there was a big debt on the kingdom, there was a debt that needs to be paid, so because Richard spent a lot of money on the Crusades. And, he exterminated he tried to get rid of the Jews, and he did a lot of shitty things. He was not great, but Richard was not a saint. He was not a great guy either. They definitely have a mixture of kings that are pretty decent, pretty good. Like, there was one that they compared to, I think it's Edward the First. They compared to him as he tries to be the Arthur of legend, to live up to that reputation. But even he doesn't completely fulfill that reputation, in my opinion. And it's interesting to learn the details of what these men do. And meanwhile, and how some of them did have their wives in the background trying to manipulate and pull the strings as well. But when Empress Matilda, she tried to get on the throne, they were like, oh no, we can't have that. She's too ambitious. How dare a woman try, she's arrogant. How dare a woman try to be a king? Which, typical, there's things that men do that, it's boys just being boys, or, oh, that's cool. And, for instance, we're talking about that with Wicked, with Beyond the Trailer. Grace is the woman who runs that channel. She brought up the whole fact that when men try to grab that power, they keep it. They're not criticized, or people are afraid to criticize them. But when women does it, it's like, bad. What's wrong with you? When woman, she's crazy, or she's too ambitious, or she's arrogant. Like they were talking about with Galinda's character and her journey, her arc, and for Wicked, for good. So yeah, Elizabeth I was not the first woman to try she was the first one to succeed. Because even her half-sister Mary, she temporarily was queen in the Tudor dynasty, but then I think she got killed. I'm trying to remember what happened to her. But yeah, so I think Elizabeth I was the first female to succeed on the throne. Even the women that looked like they succeeded, they had to use their sons. They had to work through their sons. Empress Matilda eventually had to let her son take the reins. But yeah, it's so fascinating with learning about this stuff, and it's a lot of information, but it's easier to read. And it's definitely easier for me to get into than when I was trying to read about the Crusades. Because I'm still interested in that. But sometimes the battle stuff, the war stuff, I almost prefer that in the format of a movie or TV show or documentary. Like hearing someone narrate and explain it to me and then get the visual seeing these people fight and everything and act out these moments in history. Like, as much as I want to read and learn about Rome, I almost want to stick to like fiction and reading about in fiction, even though it's fiction. It's not everything in fiction is going to be real, is going to be true. Which that's, I mean, granted, I bought the book on the lives of the Caesars by Suetonius, which I'm still going to try to read. I mean, I bought it, so I'm still going to try to read it. But I'm just worried that I'm going to struggle through it and then eventually have to, donate it to the Roast office or the Outpost bookshop. But this is a great to dive into the Plantagenets. And then the next book he wrote was about the War of the Roses, which is, the very famous history of the war for the throne between the Yorks and the Lancasters, which inspired George R. R. Martin for his Song of Ice and Fire series. Like you have the Lannisters versus the Starks. They were inspired by the War of the Roses. And then you have that movie, The War of the Roses, they just remade it recently with what are their names? Benedict Cumberbatch and I'm trying to think of the actress's name. I cannot. Olivia Colman. And then I remember the original version movie adaptation movie was, although I think that was an adaptation, I think, of a book, but with I think Michael Douglas, and I don't know who the actress that was in it, but it was Kathleen Turner, because I want to say that the two of them did another movie other than that, The Romancing the Stone, in a sequel, but I don't know. Don't take my word for that. Probably like look it up just to, but anyway, yeah, so I'm almost done with it. I'm trying to get this done before Christmas comes around, because I want to be reading something else. But I'm also not rushing myself, so I'm trying to because I still got a good chunk, but some of this chunk might also be like notes and stuff. Yeah, like in the whole the index of where it shows the sources. Okay, yeah, so let's see. Yeah, because then you have page 510 and then starting on page 511 is further reading. And this is actually very easy to read. And it probably, now granted, there are probably some details. I mean, that's why these people write these nonfiction books have to give further reading sections, because, of course, they might not include everything. They're just going to include enough for you to know the information and make it easy for you to get into, to take in the information. But, so, that's what I'm currently reading. Now, on to the book haul. First, I don't remember if I showed you guys this book, but I got, I've been slowly buying these Greek myth retellings. This is Daughters of Sparta, and I also bought another one the other day, but it ends up not being the one I got, but, I ended up getting a different book, which I will show you in a minute. But this is about Helen and Clytemnestra. And so, and I was thinking, I'm trying, like, when I'm deciding if I'm going to buy these retellings now or wait, I'm thinking, okay, am I able to read the original myth first? And I do have and I have the Iliad, which I did start reading recently. And I did not get very far into it, but I'm at the point where I think it was right before the war, right before the fighting started, where I don't know if it's Agamemnon, or is Agamemnon the one who's got, or maybe it's let's see. Does it say on the back of, is it Menelaus? I don't know which is the one that, but the one who had the slave girl, or was, enslaved, the one girl, and basically in the section, the impression I got is that, Achilles is telling him he's an idiot and he needs to just let this woman go, or something like that. I need to pick it back up. But anyway, I figured since I have that one and I will be able to read it, it's the Robert Fitzgerald, I think it's Robert Fitzgerald is the guy who translated the version that I have. Oh, I have thought about getting that one that was by that woman that everyone keeps talking about and raving about. I have thought about getting that version for both of these, both the Odyssey and the Iliad. I cannot think of her name. Emily Wilson, that's her name. I have, and I've seen that at Books at Million, so I have thought about buying them, but it's one of these things where it's probably better if I just stick to the ones I have. But yeah, I wasn't sure if I told you this, show you guys this one yet. But yeah, this is, so and like most people, what the appealing factor also appeals to me about these retellings is it's told from the point of view, a lot of these have been told from the point of view of the women in these stories, and how, like, back then, a lot of these myths were mostly focused on the male characters, all the men, the male gods and the male mortals, and I think a lot of times now we're like in the post Me Too movement, and even before that, because I think Circe in Song of Achilles came after that, before that, but like I think now people are trying to, like, they're taking these. Oh, and Penelope Ad by Margaret Atwood came out way before this, before like I can't remember when, I don't know when that one came out, but people are now writing these books that are focused on the women and also like exploring the LGBTQ. That's is kind of like, it could potentially be there originally, or we're trying to get these representations, and yeah, I do like that. I like exploring from different perspectives and looking at it in a new way. I think that is really interesting, and it also makes them a little bit, sometimes of these, I think it also can make these stories easier to get into for a lot of people, a lot of modern audiences. But yeah, so that's added to my collection of Greek myth retellings. And so, like I said, I was gonna get a different one, another one of those Greek myth retellings. Like, I was looking at some of the one, Atlantia, the one Ariadne, there's a bunch of them I'm seeing at Books a Million. But what I got instead was actually Kokoro. I don't know if I'm saying that. But I'm wondering if that is anything to do with that. I know there's a anime, I think, that is, I don't know if it's the same word or not. But this guy, the guy who wrote this, Natsume Sosikai, it says the father of modern Japanese literature. And I think this is his last novel that he wrote. But I kept seeing it at Books Million, and I went back and forth between having it on my Amazon wish list and on my thrift books wish list. And finally, I took it off of the Amazon one at some point. I think I did. I hope I did, because I don't want to end up with 2 copies of this. But I'm pretty sure I did. and I bought this one. Which I'm gonna have to go through my thrift books wish list and make sure it's not, and take that one off there. Not that, of course, I'm the only one who sees that list, so I'll know I already bought it, but still. So let me. Haunted by tragic secrets that have cast a long shadow over his life, Sensei slowly opens up to his young disciple, confessing indiscretions from his own student days that have left him reeling with guilt and revealing in the seemingly unabridgeable chasm between his moral anguish and his student's struggle to understand it. The professional, though profound cultural shift from one generation to the next that characterizes Japan in the early 20th century. So it's about the main character, Sensei, telling his young student his life story. And I have another book by this author as well. I think it's this. I think I do, that I've showed you guys, that I've hauled before for you guys, I think. But yeah, I'm getting really intrigued by collecting Japanese literature, like, and yeah, like, I mean, unfortunately, what's it? The Tale of Genji, reading the abridged version didn't work out, and I'm not sure if, because it's such a long book. It's huge. It's over 1,000 pages. The actual, unabridged version, because I only read an unabridged version. I mean, abridged version, which was a lot shorter, and I just don't know if I want to read that. I mean, I know it's a classic in Japanese literature, and maybe someone can convince me. And you don't have to tell me but, like, I don't know if it just feels like it's kind of about this young man's exploits, his romantic exploits, and I'm not sure if I want to spend, like, if I changed my mind and gotten, I probably would just get it off of my Kindle, because it's so long. At least my Kindle is not physically taking up space. Which, there are a lot of books on my Kindle that ended up being just, there are a couple times where I bought books that ended up being a disappointment, but then I missed the chance to return it so I'm kind of stuck with it, but at least it's not taking up space on my shelf. Sadly, though, I still spent money on it, and ended up being a disappointment, but yeah, so I wasn't sure about, but I'm really excited to read this, and so now, what I got today. Okay, one of these is actually something I got from my dad. Now, he doesn't watch my channel, so it's okay if I show you guys. But first, let me go ahead and show you this. So, first we have, The Names of the Lands. This is by George Stewart. This was published in during World War II, and is a book of how places in the United States were named. And I thought this was a really interesting micro-history that my dad might like, because he likes history. It was either between this or a biography on Doc Holliday, or a book about the Alamo. And I decided, because this just seemed more interesting. Like, just a little bit of an interesting micro-history about, and even my mom agreed that sounded interesting and intriguing. Because, like, she was telling me, okay, you don't need to buy him another book. But I think she just didn't want me to spend the money via Amazon for another book. Because, of course, it's still, it's, like, there are conveniences about Amazon, but it's still pricey on there. And with this used bookshop, Outpost bookshop, like, if I bought this into just this book, it would be $4. So when on Amazon, it's probably like $20. Maybe a little bit. Well, it's cheaper than Books A Million, but still, it's compared to what it would cost on Amazon versus the fact that I just spent $4 just on this book. But yeah, it's just, I think this is much more interesting. Like, sometimes I think it's, it's more worth getting a book on a micro history. Like, that can be a little bit more compelling than like those big books, those big history books, because it's a lot in those history books, a lot of information. Even this book is about, let's see, how many pages? Let's see. Okay, alright, it doesn't say how many pages there. Like, counting the index, it's 511 pages. Like, granted, that Alamo book was not that long, but... And also, I think it helps because you don't, because when I was thinking about getting my dad a book at first, Mom was like, well, you can just look it up on the internet, which made me roll my eyes, because like, well, maybe we need to get away from that for a little while. So, with this kind of thing, yeah, you might be able to look this kind of stuff, this information on the internet, but it would take a lot more time to find this kind of information. And this was from Symposium. I wonder where Symposium Books is. I wonder if that's in where I live, or in my state or not, or if that's some other state and it eventually made its way here. But anyway, yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool, and my dad will appreciate that. So here are the books for me. It took me forever to decide what books I wanted to get, and this is a bit of a risk here, but like I said, each of these two books individually would be $4, so it's 12 altogether. I was gonna buy a fourth book, but I went back to my 3-book limit. So, these are books by the same author. So first we have the first book I picked was A Stranger in the Kingdom. So this is a murder trial story about this black, let me see, preacher. He's a black preacher who gets convicted of a murder that he didn't commit. But he still gets put on trial in this small town in Vermont. This is where it takes place, in Vermont. And I guess his family's probably trying to figure out who really committed the murder and save his life. And this is compared to Kill a Mockingbird, which I have read it. I read it once, but a long time ago, and probably when I was too young to appreciate that book. But the problem is, I'm thinking, I already read it. Which I know I probably should read it again, since it's about something so important. And everybody who reads Kill a Mockingbird absolutely loves it. And a lot of the reviews were like, the more negative reviews, or the ones that were like, oh, this is good. They were kind of in the middle. The 3-star reviews, that they didn't say it was terrible, but they didn't absolutely love it. They were like, well, you could read To Kill a Mockingbird. Like, some of those 3-star reviews were like, To Kill a Mockingbird does it better. But I still bought it, and luckily the bookstore had, which I'm guessing that the person whoever brought these in, brought both of these books in, probably bought both of these in. This is Northern Borders, and it takes place in the same community in Vermont, the same town, Kingdom. So I'm going to read the back to you guys. Vermont's in 1948, 6-year-old Austin Kittredge, and actually spelled the same way Jane Austen spells her last name. Austin Kittredge III leaves his widowed father to live with his paternal grandparents on their farm in the township of Lost Nation. Escapades at the county fair, doings at the annual family reunion, Shakespeare performance, and conflicts at the one-room schoolhouse are all recounted lovingly in this enchanting coming-of-age story filled with luminous memories and the deepest of childhood secrets as a boy is molded into a man. So this is a coming-of-age story. And these just sounded really intriguing. Also, I probably shouldn't have, because I'm trying to I asked for bookmarks for Christmas, and I have so many, and I shouldn't. But then I was like, I felt like the cashier said, "Oh, go pick a bookmark, and they're free." So I was like, okay, let me just pick one out. But this is one of their Christmas bookmarks, and I mean, it is kind of cool that someone made these. There was when our family was kind of big into making stamps and creating bookmarks and playing with stamps and stuff. And for a while we were doing things with bookmarks. I don't know what happened to those bookmarks though. I wonder if they probably got thrown away. Which actually that'd be kind of fun to do if I could recreate that. But anyway, so yeah, I mean someone made this, so I figured I'll go and take it, and I could always throw it away. But I picked the one with the music notes on it. And it's pretty, like the gold and everything, and like it's very Christmassy. Okay, so yeah, I thought these were kind of. I also like these covers. Both the covers of these books are very autumnal, with the orange leaf on each of them, and a small town story, and But I took forever to make a decision because, like I said, I was trying to stick to 3 books, and then I did realize later that I probably should have waited because we live across from an elementary school, so I ran into school traffic. So it happens when you walk. I mean, you don't drive. So I probably shouldn't wait until like 3 o'clock to leave. But anyway, but yeah, these just sound very, very interesting stories. Okay, so that is my book haul and update for you guys. I hope all's going well for you. And I hope are you excited about Christmas? Christmas is coming up. Do you ask for books for Christmas, or is it one of these things where, because I know a lot of people, there are a lot of people that don't ask for books for Christmas because it's just like, I'll just buy my own books, or people don't know what books to buy you and they buy you ones that you already have or something. But I always give people lists, what books I want to get. I just have my wish list. And I know a lot of people don't begin. I think maybe it's because of consumerism, and people are just so obsessed with buying the perfect gift for people, and it gets really crazy. It's just funny that Christmas is supposed to be a joyous time of year to spend time with your family. And if you're a Christian, as a Christian, it's about the birth of Jesus Christ, which technically I don't think he was born in December, but that supposedly is the day he was born. So it's about that. It's about spending time with your family and giving gifts to celebrate your love for the people and all that, and your friends and family. But unfortunately, with the way things are, people sometimes forget that and are focused on buying the perfect gift for their kids, for their for their spouses, and it just becomes really. And people are just in a rush and hurrying and just want to get their stuff done because there's, and how decorating for Christmas can be such a hassle. Like, mom and I were just talking about that it's going to get to the point where I might have to be the one to get the decorations up and everything. And it's either that or we're not going to decorate at all, which would make me sad. I mean, the thing is, there are some decorations that I don't know if I could do it. But anyway, because my parents they're in their 60s. And, my dad already does not like doing the decorating, especially now because he currently, because he can't do a lot of physical type jobs anymore. So he's kind of helping. His current job that keeps him busy, is helping with that kind of stuff, decorating and event planning. And so he doesn't want to come home. He doesn't want to come home anymore and help my mom decorate our house. And this year we're not, it's just such a hassle to do it. I mean, I love seeing the decoration. I love our house being decorated, but it's a lot. and it's exhausting. So it makes, it's going to be sad if we have to stop decorating, but we might, because there's only so much I can do. Even though I'm a very young person, still very strong, there are some things I can't do. But anyway, so I hope you guys are enjoying your Christmas, and I hope you still see the joy in Christmas and really take in the Christmas spirit. I know there's a lot of, craziness, and even though this is a time where we're supposed to be very, if the rest of the year we can't be nice to each other, we can at least be nice to each other around Christmas time. Which is kind of sad, but it's, if not, at least share with me what you're reading right now. I would love to know. Like I said, I'm working my way for the Plantagenets book, and I don't know what I'm going to read next. I am using the whole, I'm on Storygraph, and there's the up next thing that they have on there, and I'm using that, but I might change that a little bit. I might move things around on that. I'll see if I can do that, because there are other books I want to pick up. I'm now also wanting to read, and some of them that have been on my shelf for a long time. I want to finally pick them up and see about them, if I want to continue, if I want to read them or not. And of course, I'm asking for books for Christmas, so I do gotta haul some books, unhaul some books. Anyway, so I'm gonna stop rambling now, but I just wanted to give you guys an update, and I hope you're enjoying your own reading and enjoying the Christmas if you celebrate Christmas, or enjoying if you celebrate Hanukkah or Kwanzaa. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.